for von Braun and his team, they set up along the Baltic Sea a place called Peenemünde. It was a research and development center for the Nazi rocket operation. And to this place at Peenemünde, the Nazis brought thousands of Jews and French resistance fighters to serve as prisoners, essentially slaves, to build this production effort. Well, the British found out about it, went in and bombed the entire operation. And so the Nazis said, we've got to move to a more secure location. And down inside of central Germany, there's a mountain chain called the Harz Mountains. And in that mountain, there's a huge tunnel where the Nazis were storing military hardware. Well, they cleared the whole thing out, moved the entire rocket operation into the tunnel, named it Mittelwerk. And just outside the mountain tunnel at Mittelwerk, the Nazis built a brand new concentration camp called Dora. And to Dora, the Nazis brought 40,000 Jews, gypsies, French resistance fighters, homosexuals, communists, even a black American GI were brought there to serve as slaves for the operation. Well, you know, immediately after the war, the U.S. and the Allies created the Nuremberg trials, at which time we brought the Nazis to justice for their crimes against humanity. But 1,000 never went to trial. They were smuggled into the United States by the U.S. military under a program called Operation Paperclip, smuggled in through Boston and West Palm Beach, Florida. And Wernher von Braun and his rocket team, 100 of them, along with 100 copies of the V-2 rocket, were sent to Huntsville, Alabama, where von Braun became the first director of NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. What's interesting is the other 1,400 Nazis. Who were they? Well, some of them were brought to the United States to work for the CIA. Others were brought to the United States to do the LSD drug experiments and the MK Ultra mind experiments during the 1960s, where people were jumping out of windows. Some of the Nazi scientists that in Germany had been taking Jews and putting them in freezing temperatures to see how the body would react to that were sent to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio and were put in charge of the U.S. military flight medicine program. And so when you take 1,500 of the top Nazi scientists and essentially seed the military-industrial complex, the question I have is, do they bring with them an ideological contamination? Well, not only did von Braun go to work for NASA, but the guy that was in charge of the V-2 flight test program up at Peenemünde along the Baltic Sea, a guy by the name of Kurt Wiebes, became the first director of the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And then the man that recruited von Braun, Major General Walter Dornberger, the guy that was sent by Hitler to recruit von Braun to come to work for the Nazis, he became vice president of Bell Aerosystems Corporation in New York that made its riches building the helicopters for the war in Vietnam. In fact, in 1958, Dornberger testified before the United States Congress, saying that America's top space priority should be to, quote, conquer, occupy, keep, and utilize space between the Earth and the Moon. And in fact, later on, in a speech before a national missile industry conference, Dornberger told the assembled, "Gentlemen, I didn't come to this country to lose the Third World War. I lost two already." And then finally, the man that was in charge of production at Mittelwerk, inside the mountain tunnel there in Germany, Arthur Rudolph, he became the first project director of the NASA Saturn V rocket program that took the United States to the moon. And so these are the essential origins of the U.S. space program. And the Space Command put out a planning document a few years ago called Vision for 2020. And on the cover of it, you see a satellite hitting targets on the Earth below. Let's take a look at some of the language in this so-called Vision for 2020. The Space Command says that in the future, because of corporate globalization of the world economy, they expect that there's going to be a widening gap between the haves and the have-nots, between the rich and the poor all over the world. And as a result of that, the Pentagon predicts that there's going to be more and more regional instability around the world because people that are under the boot of these multinational corporations are going to organize. They're going to try to organize unions. They're going to organize to get these corporations from controlling their governments. And the Pentagon says, you know, we can't put a Marine on every single street corner of the world to suppress these populations. But with space technology in place, we'll be able to see everything, hear everything, and essentially target everything in every place on the Earth. And the Vision 2020 says that space superiority will emerge as an essential element of battlefield success in future warfare.
everyone. For the record, I'm Diana, and today is September 9th, 2013, and here are your news updates for today. It's Monday evening. Very late. I had to work. And here are your updates for today. Yes, we'll go out, Max. Not yet. Give me 2 minutes. When it's loading, we'll go. Alright. Hear him talking. Doggy's talking in the background here. Outside. What? Oh, come on. Yeah, I'll pick your heavy butt up. There he is. Look, there's your doggy. We'll go outside. It just stopped raining anyway. You gotta wait. Alright, we'll go. Alright, let's go to the breaking news. Nothing new on the Extinction Protocol 2012 and beyond. Alright. Clover fire near Happy Valley in Shasta County, California is now 2,500 acres. Evacuations are in place. That was an hour ago. Heads up coming out of Cal Fire. Also, Tropical Storm Humberto. Advisory 6 issued. Storm could reach hurricane status within 24 hours. Coming out of NHC Atlantic. Heads up. Let's see if there's anything else. I don't think so. That would interest anybody. Let's see. Here we go. Moving on. The Watchers watching the world. Mount Loken erupts again, spews volcanic material up to 1,500 meters in the air. Also, fluoride, calcifier of the soul. Better filter your water, please. You'll become a fluoride head if you don't. Right, Max? What are you doing? What are you saying? He's back there growling. Alrighty then. I just came home from work a little bit ago and started on the computer. But then it was raining. I didn't want to take him out in the rain, so he's upset he didn't go out right away. Instead he had little snacks. Okay. There we go. Let's go into the E&E News, Energy News. Reports, news site with high levels of radiation at Fukushima. Urgent problem at plant, says IAEA. Experts to examine massive water buildup. Found immediately after Olympic speech claiming it's under control. Can't dump groundwater in sea. Nuclear consultant. They will have to maintain Fukushima ice wall for hundreds of years if ever installed. I would think the temperature difference would cause a problem. Yes. Hold on. Hold on, Max. Alright. Japan Times. Professor equates TEPCO with Homer Simpson. New York Times. Government is taking us for fools. Fukushima refugee. Okay. Gunderson. He keeps saying out. He says out. Out. Okay, we'll go out. Hold on. Gunderson. Spent fuel likely to break when pulled from Fukushima Unit 4 pool. Racks have been distorted. Fuel rods overheated. Suspects some will be stuck there for a long time. Stuck there for a long time. Alright, let's go into US Canada. Then I'll load this and then he can go out. Why don't you use your pop-up paper if you have to? I believe pets should always have a toilet available for them 24 hours a day. They have their paper, their pop-up paper. Hold on, we're gonna go bye-bye. Hold on. Okay, I'd want a toilet available 24 hours. I don't know. Alright, nothing new. I don't hear anything about the sinkhole. Something must be really going on there. Alright. So, it's one day down, 4 to go before the weekend. Today, we're taking a hard look at NASA and the Nazis that ran it. I don't know. I thought that they were searching in, like the boys from Brazil. I thought they were all going down to Argentina and Brazil looking for Nazis. You know? What was that all about if we took a bunch of them in here? And then you wonder why everything's going crazy, right? You see what I'm saying? Alright. What's really going on with NASA? Hey, I'm going to show you what's really going on with NASA with some of this stuff. We're going to focus on NASA today. Because there are some of the answers there of what's really going on, I guess. Right? Well, if anything, at least you have the heads up about it. Alright. Take care. Stay tuned. I'm attaching a bunch of stuff, so I guess this is NASA 101. So here it is. Watch all this, and then you can't say no one told you so. Alright? And be prepared for anything. They're all going nutty now. See? They're chasing the cat. The cat's running back and forth, and they're chasing it. Alright. Come on, you guys. It's like little kids. You guys stop running around the house. Hey! They want to play, jump and play. Jumping, running, playing. Jumping, running, playing. Between you and the cat, the cat's going to come zooming past me in a minute. They're waiting on the cat. Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Where is he? Where'd he go? He's going to go in the bathroom so we can go outside for our walk. They're trying to get the cat to... all of a sudden, there's going to be like craziness running through the place. Alright. They're like little kids. Alright, take care. Be prepared for anything, and make sure your pets are prepared too. I'll see you again on the flip side tomorrow.
Well, Dr. Stan here at the Genesis Communication Network, and basically, of course, they're trying to do everything they can to get us into a war in the Middle East, and basically, of course, why? Well, we know the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, both of these are subversive organizations, and they're behind it. Certainly John Kerry, Susan Rice, the key people in the Obama administration who are pushing this, and certainly the mass media, which is controlled by the Brotherhood of Darkness. They want to get us to expand the war over there now. Now, basically, is there any justification for it? Absolutely not. Certainly, there's a man named, his name is Dale Gavlak, Gavlak, Gavlak. Gavlak, Dale Gavlak. Go up in the internet. He's a reporter. He used to be with AP. Whether he still is or not, I don't know. But he went to the suburb when the poison gas was used, talked to the rebels there, and they said, look, we got the poison gas from Saudi Arabia. They didn't tell us how to use it. It got out of hand. We're sorry the way things worked out. But they readily admit it was the rebels that did this. And basically, of course, this is all a lie about Assad. They have no proof of it, and they don't want to wait until the United Nations comes out with their report. And basically, why, if certainly this report is out there, and you can get up on the internet and look up Dale Gavlak, articles certainly on InfoWars and many other websites, telling about Dale Gavlak and the fact that it was the rebels who readily admitted that they used the poison gas. Why isn't that covered by the media? And it's because the media is controlled, ladies and gentlemen. The media is controlled by the same people who control the military, the banks, the major corporations, and largely control what the American people think and believe. Well, this afternoon we're going to be talking with our good friend Deborah Tavares about what this is really all about, and it's really all about creating a one-world government under a new subversive elite, this subversive elite that operates out of the United States. These people should be indicted and tried for treason because their activities are treasonous. But, Deborah, why don't you get into the background and all the documents that you have on your website laying out the plan for the establishment of a one-world government, a one-world financial system, and the destruction of Christianity, which is the major goal of these people because they worship a different God. Go right ahead, Deborah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Stan. Yes, on stopthecrime.net, stopthecrime.net, we have posted some critical documents quiet weapons, silent weapons for quiet wars, the NWO exposed 1969, and most importantly, we have the Great American Adventure, Secrets of America, that will talk to you about the subversion of the United States Constitution during the bankruptcy of 1933. Very, very important to understand. We look at all of this as though it's just a shadow in the corner, but you've got to keep in mind, much of this is directed by contracts. That's why our land is being stolen right out from underneath us. That is why we have UN Agenda 21 battles with regionalization in Northern California, where they're redefining property use. And this is all part of a strategy, and it has legal, unlegal, lawful realities to it, and that's why it is absolutely important to take a look at that document on our website. Also, Dr. Stan, I wanted to make a comment about what we're doing in Syria, because, of course, we're saying that we must go in because the government has used chemicals and biologicals on the civilian population. Well, I know that we've spoken many times about the NASA war plan that we found on the NASA website that is also under our source documents on StopTheCrime.net, and everyone knows that they're using chemicals and biologicals on the American civilian population every single day. This is no new news. We're being poisoned into chemical lobotomies so that we will not be able to think or function. And the weapons that they are using are unimaginable. And when you look at that NASA war plan, you understand what they're doing overseas to these innocents. And they're using these on us. They're poisoning our water. They're poisoning our air, our food supply. They're using the United States Air Force to fly missions over us to pollute our skies every single day. And in fact, I can say that in the NASA war plan, they talk about terror attacks within the continental United States using binary chemical biologicals, and that they will use radiation frequencies against our brain. So what is happening right now demands everyone's immediate attention. We are in a declaration of war under the Silent Weapons Quiet Wars policy. That was a 1954 adopted Bilderberg policy at the very first Bilderberg meeting in the Netherlands. It's only 44 pages. We also have it up in an audio format as well. So everyone needs to read that immediately to understand the foundation of what we face. And then everyone needs to take action. We cannot sit on the sidelines as we are watching innocents in the world being attacked by rogue United States that does not represent us. We have been taken by mega banks and mega corporations that are posing as a legitimate government, and they are not. And until we understand what is happening, we are going to continue to find ourselves being more conditioned into a reality of a new world order that absolutely has no regards towards human life, morality, or ethics at all. A new world order is completely oppressive, and we're heading into that if we're not already basically there with this massive surveillance grid that they have put over all of us, not only with the smart meters on all of our homes. That is a massive surveillance grid in and of itself. They'll know what you're doing in your home at every time. That's absolute surveillance in your home, massive data collection, but this will monitor all human activity, as well as this is planned pulsed genocide electromagnetically. This is part of the silent weapons system. And we've got to wake up awful quick. You've been hearing Dr. Stan talk about this for many years. It's amped up. All of us have to engage in this awareness campaign because this is a battle. We must not consent by lack of knowledge. Our consent is one of the victors' primary considerations. They consider that our consent is their primary victory, and we are consenting by lack of knowledge. We've all been massively deceived. We've been dumbed down through our education, dumbed down with all the chemicals and biologicals, and we have to wake up right now. The future of humanity requires it. They are getting ready to launch us into more unthinkable. They're getting ready to eliminate the human species as we have known it, called transhumanism. And that is happening. When you read that NASA war plan on stopthecrime.net, you will find that they say on page 66, increasingly critical are human limitations and human downsides. Humans are too large, too heavy, too tender, too slow physically and mentally. Humans require too much cost, and humans have rapidly decreasing to negative value. So what do you do about knowing all of this? You go to the solutions page on stopthecrime.net. You engage completely. The Silent Weapons Quiet Wars document is a declaration of war. It says so in the very beginning. Whenever a small group of well-informed, moneyed people that have the methodologies to control the economy of the world without the knowledge or consent of the public wield their power to do so, it is a declaration of war. So we have been in a declared war, and initially this plan, the silent weapons, was hatched in the late 40s with Rockefeller, the United States Air Force, the international bankers, and Harvard University. We have some big players that have engaged in war against us. So it's extremely important to understand we have rules and regulations that are not laws. We don't need to comply. We cannot obey with a system that is murderous and ruthless and is picking our rural farmers and ranchers off all around the perimeter of our large cities. More farms and ranches are getting closed down because of the rules and regulations by groups that are corporate entities of this mother corporation. They have no legal standing.
Hold, Deborah. You're going to have to hold that back. We're going to be back in just a moment. Our guest is Deborah Tavares. Deborah, what's your website again?
StopTheCrime.net.
StopTheCrime.net. You'll certainly want to go there. You'll want to pull down the various documents he has. We'll be back in just a moment here at Genesis. Well, Dr. Stan here at the Genesis Communication Network. Our guest is Deborah Tavares, and she's simply pointing out that we have a small group of subversives that control our government. Now, basically, the average individual finds it difficult to believe. We live such a wonderful life, and we have relative freedom here, but of course, we're only being allowed to have it temporarily until, of course, they have succeeded in using the financial and military power of the United States to consolidate the rest of the world, and then they're going to certainly plunge us into a terrible world war, and whether that's what's coming now or this is a prelude to it, we'll just have to wait and watch and see. But ladies and gentlemen, now you can just tell who these people are if you know the characters. If you have a program, you need the membership list of the Council on Foreign Relations, and there you'll find John Kerry and Susan Rice, and certainly the man who preceded John Kerry with Susan Rice, certainly there at the National Security Advisor, that was Thomas L. Donilon, and the man who preceded him, General James Jones, all came from this subversive group. The Council on Foreign Relations formed back in 1921 to bring about a world government. It is subversive, and we ought to call it just exactly what it is. And these people should be arrested, and they should be indicted and tried for treason. Go right ahead, Deborah.
Well, that's absolutely right. And everybody, we must engage fully now. We are at war here in the United States. It is a silent war. And they tell us in the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars document that we are being subdued by a weapon that people cannot even recognize. They say that when this silent weapon is amped up gradually, the public adjusts and adapts to its presence. Well, it is being amped up with the frequencies. We are being smothered in toxic geoengineering, weather modification programs, pummeled by weaponized weather warfare events all over our country. They're poisoning our food supply, our water, our food. We can't sit and take it anymore because we're all being chemically dumbed and numbed down intentionally. And the latest government document that we found on the White House website is riveting. I can only tell you it's all about mind control. You can go to the top of stopthecrime.net. It's flashing at the top of the homepage. It says mind control. New leaked docs here. Now, it's horrific. They are amping up the frequencies this month, September of 2013, and in conjunction with going online with the massive NSA Data Collection Center in Bluffdale, Utah, they are heading and aiming towards mind control so that we will obey. An excellent movie to understand some of this is called They Live. Watch that movie immediately. Also watch Eagle Eye by Spielberg to understand what quantum computers are about. This is artificial intelligence. Quantum computers is mind theft. It's invasion of the human brain. They will be able to remotely control us. You're not seeing zombies in the movies just because. This is conditioning us to what they believe our reality to be. We are wonderful human beings. They are robbing, murdering, and stealing everything from us. This is sheer evil. And we have greater brilliance and compassion. And we must assert ourselves now. We can't continue to allow this. Our future, our children, they look at us with their big eyes. We must engage. We have to protect as many of the young as possible. We're talking about mind control, our thoughts, our emotions, directing our physical actions. A very important document on stopthecrime.net to download and get to your police and your first responders is a warning to all police and first responders about what pulsed microwave radiation and how that affects the brain. Our police and first responders are being manipulated. That is why we are seeing heightened anger directed towards protesters and civilians on the street. Our police are already under massive attack with increased mood disorders and changes due to frequencies. Now, I can't express that enough. Read this for yourself. More importantly, understand the massive attack. This is not to scare you, but this is to inform you. We are getting very sick. This is all by design. When we're too sick to function, then we can be easily manipulated. We have autism, we have cancers and heart seizures, and people are having nosebleeds from the frequencies and the smart meters. We have rapidly problems with aging and skin irritation and difficulty sleeping. They are jamming our immune systems, and we have to stop this. We have to understand how we've already been controlled by lack of knowledge. In the document, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, you will see that according to the document, the international elite did decide in 1954 to wage a quiet war against us and shift all the wealth from the irresponsible many into the hands of the responsible worthy few. That's a quote from the document. And they go on to say, in view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. The goal is to establish an economy with a totally predictable and manipulable outcome. The masses will have to be trained and assigned a yoke in life from a very early age. And they go on to talk about how they will create this through breaking up the families, that was an important process so that we would become isolated. We wouldn't have the network of family. That's exactly what they've done. There is no more important document to read than Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Put everything else down and read this 44-page document. Now, for those that are listening that cannot download this document, you may call this phone number and we will get it sent to you for the cost of shipping and copying the document, because we want everybody to have this available. You can call area code 707-586-9558. Again, area code 707-586-9558. You can order that document. Actually, we've put a document package together of the things that we think you need to read most immediately. We don't have a lot of time, because as these frequencies amp up all around us intentionally, we will be under massive mind control. Now, if you know about this mind control in advance, there are many things that you can do to protect yourselves from being manipulated and thrown into the chaotic society that they are creating. And so by reading these source documents, you will get an immediate handle on what they're planning to do from that historical perspective, and then you can lie on top of that the NASA war plan and understand the attack is unbelievable. They are going to be doing this in Syria. The NASA war plan on page 43 tells us that they will use a micron-sized dust. They'll distribute it as an aerosol, and we'll inhale it into our lungs. They say that this will bore into our lung tissue and execute various pathological missions. This is, they say, legal. There's nothing legal about all of this. We have been deceived. We have a government that has been taken over, and we have been told to obey. It's the law. It is not the law. We cannot blindly go into the night believing that we are being told the truths here. We are not. And every single day it is getting more difficult to survive. And while we still have a chance, we must do all we can and recognize we are at war. Get this information to all your families and friends. Put magnetic signs on your cars with websites. We are the media, and we've got to massively get out this information because we are under siege.
Hold the thought, Deborah. We'll be right back, and give us a call. Well, there is certainly a subversive element out there, ladies and gentlemen. It's led by Rockefeller and a number of other very wealthy people who want to bring about a one-world government. And as David Rockefeller says in his memoirs, some even believe we're part of a secret cabal working against the best interest of the United States, conspiring with others to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. And if that's the charge, I am guilty and I am proud of it. Ladies and gentlemen, these people are internationalists, they're subversive, and they're working at the highest levels of our government. And right now they want to plunge us into a terrible, terrible conflict over there in the Middle East. How this is going to work out, I just don't know, but pray that certainly the Congress does not vote to give Obama the permission to go ahead. Now, John Boehner, the head of the Republican Party, basically his wife lives elsewhere. Apparently he has certainly been playing around, or he has been seduced under any circumstances. They own him, ladies and gentlemen. They own Boehner, as they own so many of our congressmen. They certainly have spies there. They send attractive women to compromise them. And of course, most men are attracted to women. Unfortunately, Boehner and many of the others have certainly compromised their very souls. And Boehner is willing to, he is the House Majority Leader. He's willing to sell us out and take us into a battle over there. And basically, ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand what's going on now. You need to go to Deborah's website. You need to get her material. You need to pull it down and read it through half a dozen times. It'll take you that long to understand the significance of what she has. But this is one of the finest websites in the country. Now, if you're out there in the listening audience, you have a question, our telephone number is 1-800-259-5791, 1-800-259-5791 for this hour. Deborah, you go right ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Stan. I want to just give an example of one of the attacks upon us. Now, I know we've spoken many times on past radio shows, Dr. Stan, about the smart meter, the global smart grid. And for those that want to watch the video, the conference that I gave, please go to stopthecrime.net, scroll down on the home page, and listen to my conference that I gave to the Oath Keepers. It will connect Agenda 21, Future Earth, with the Wildlands Project, with the military documents that say these frequencies are indeed weaponized and will injure 100% of the population. So I urge you to understand the details of that. I'm not going to take the time right now, Dr. Stan, to go through those details. I'm going to rely on everybody to please watch that information because I'm going to lay out some new information about the global smart grid and what has happened here in the United States recently. By executive order, each and every city across the United States, through their planning department, is required to implement what they call a climate action plan based on phony, bogus science, based on the idea that we are required to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and CO2. That is a fraud. Now, here in Sonoma County, our planning department recently put this through, and it was voted on by our city council, and here's what it says. This is very important to listen very, very carefully here. This is about the smart meters. It said that by the year 2015, that's only 2 years away, Sonoma County, our area where I live, must reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 25% below 1990 levels. 25% below 1990 levels. They don't have levels calculated for 1999. It's bogus false science anyway. They're back engineering bogus numbers. They're requiring that the cities eliminate and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So what are they requiring? Smart meters on every single home. The opt-out plan that you've heard so much about was only a temporary appeasement plan to give us the sense of a victory while they worked in the back door to require this. They are requiring that we all install Energy Star appliances. Those are the appliances with the RFID chips in them. The sensors, they interact with the required smart meters on our homes. This is a military deployment. In order to bring in this one world government, they must have everything monitored 24/7, 365. This grid is a must in order to control us completely. Again, do not obey. Do not consent. This is the only way that we're going to survive this massive frequency attack up on us. It's well advanced, but we still have time to not allow our brains to be taken over by these frequencies. Another aspect about the smart grid is this. I'm sure that many of you recall back in 2008, the White House promised, Obama specifically, that he would bankrupt the coal industry that supports over 80,000 jobs. So he said, quote, so if anybody wants to build a coal-powered plant, they can. It's just it will bankrupt them because they're going to have to be charged a high sum for all that greenhouse gas that's being emitted. He threatened us then. And during the campaign, Obama remarked, we can't drive our SUVs and eat as much as we want and keep our homes at 72 degrees at all times and then just expect that other countries are going to say okay. They're bankrupting the coal industry, and this is illustrated in the climate action plans. And here in Sonoma County, our climate action plan says they want us to transition out of all gas appliances and out of all gas equipment. They're shutting down the coal industry through these climate action plans that are by executive order. Now, to get the details of what you hear me saying to you, go to stopthecrime.net and scroll down, and it will say the smart meter opt-out was only an appeasement plan. Now, understand, they say in these various plans not to worry. You're going to be required to retrofit all your old clunker, inefficient appliances, but you will be given the opportunity to have green mortgages. They say that it will cost anywhere between $2,000 and $5,000 per household to transition under the retrofitting requirement of all of our appliances. That is one reason GE was moved to China, slave labor, so they could manufacture the global replacement of appliances, again, to monitor everything we do, and also this is additional pulsed microwave radiation frequencies that will damage us in our homes, again, rendering us incapable to fight back because we're all going to be so sick.
But Deborah, now what you're talking about, certainly we're going to get this pulse radiation from the chips that are in all the smart appliances. Is that right?
That's absolutely absolutely right. The RFID chips, and that's why I recommend, Dr. Stan, everyone go to stopthecrime.net and watch my talk with the Oath Keepers. I explain that in detail. I have pictures so people can see, so they'll understand the details that are being discussed right now more fully. Also, the increased radiation is coming from all of the cell phone towers and all of the antennas that are being meticulously deployed all over our nation. In fact, this is global. This is all part of the frequency grid, and it is unthinkable. We are being absolutely imprisoned globally by the globalist. We can't allow this. The installation of cell phone towers are not to improve our cell coverage. This is to, again, once NSA is full up and running, they will be able to track every human being on the planet 24/7, 365, and then they will monitor everything about you, and they can directionalize energy at specific people. They've been doing this for a very long time. This is not any new technology.
I would simply point out that, do you ever wonder why so many of the cell phones are so inexpensive? They're being subsidized because they want to track you. And this is really what we're doing with so much of the electronic equipment. Certainly on many of your iPads and things like that, where you can actually see the people you're talking to. But remember, the government can watch you as well. Our number is 1-800-259-5791. Give us a call, 1-800-259-5791. We'll be back in a moment with Deborah. We're moving towards a dictatorship. The people in charge know what they're doing. They just don't want you to know or to care. We'll be right back. Well, Dr. Stan here at the Genesis Communication Network, and our guest is Deborah Tavares. And if you're out there in the listening audience, you have a question for Deborah, our number is 1-800-259-5791. 1-800-259-5791. And ladies and gentlemen, certainly the smart meters, the purpose of the smart meters is to monitor you. And they're not interested, certainly, in saving electricity. What they want to do is be able to know exactly what you're doing, and down the line, everything that you do is going to be monitored and controlled. Everybody has a number. They have their cameras out every place. They're not interested in crime. They're interested in watching you. And
that's exactly right, Dr. Stan. In fact, in the U.S. Department of Energy document, this is what it says. This is the ultimate goal, not to use energy. The most efficient energy is energy we do not generate. This is not a technology. It is a behavior modification or learning to live in a new reality. They are aiming for zero. Now, we have been deceived. We are giving our consent because we lack the knowledge. None of us were taught about the bankruptcy of 1933 and what that actually meant. And so go to stopthecrime.net. You'll see an American flag that says USA Inc. Read the documents associated with that. But I'm going to tell you right now, people that talk about a Constitution and a Bill of Rights is bogus. Our Constitution and Bill of Rights has already been shredded. We are under a corporate-run, illegitimate international banking government. And we have a de facto government. It's a corporation. And it has been taken over since 1933 under the guise of the national banking emergency. During that emergency, the people were made enemies of the state to legalize the confiscation of our gold. Our status remains unchanged as long as the national emergency exists in our country. And this is according to the Senate Report 93-549, page 2. Since March of 1933, the United States has been in a state of declared national emergency. The national emergencies, which include wars, delegate the president extraordinary powers ordinarily exercised by Congress, which affect the lives of American citizens in a host of all-encompassing manners. This vast range of powers taken together give the authority to rule the country without reference to normal constitutional processes. Under the powers delegated by these statutes, the President may seize property, organize and control the means of production, seize commodities, assign military forces abroad, institute martial law, seize and control all transportation and communications, regulate and operate private enterprise, restrict travel, and a plethora of particular ways to control the lives of all of us. And the statutes are corporate codes, rules, and regulations. They are not laws, and we simply must realize how we have been deceived. Our corporate history was rewritten just as Common Core is rewriting and dumbing down our children right now in schools by dumbing down math and science. We were all dumbed down. We were not taught what occurred in 1933. And I can only tell you that this also goes into Agenda 21 in America. That was established by executive order by the executive branch during Bill Clinton. And again, these are illegitimate orders. These are not laws or rules under a constitution. We simply cannot acknowledge this. Our consent is our acknowledgement and our demise. And I can say in the source document, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, it says if we give our consent, we deserve what we get. If we eat the poison foods that they put forth to us, we deserve to die. And this is what it says. We are killing ourselves by ignorance and lack of knowledge. And so we must educate ourselves really quickly. Read these source documents. Understand the degree of noncompliance that each and every one of us are required to make. We're here right now. This is on our watch. War is in our country, in the United States. Right now, it's a silent war. It is a quiet war. It is a war that we do not recognize as even being a war. And in the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars document, it tells us just that. The public cannot comprehend this weapon and cannot believe they are being attacked or subdued by a weapon. When this is applied gradually, the public adjusts and adapts to its presence and learns to tolerate its encroachments on their lives until the pressure, both psychological and economic, becomes too great and they crack up. The silent weapons is a type of biological warfare. It attacks the vitality, options, mobility of individuals, of a society, by knowing, understanding, manipulating, attacking our sources of natural and social energy, and our physical, mental, and emotional strengths and weaknesses. Read this document. It is important for you to understand the level of engagement that is now required. Go to antennasearch.com. Recognize that the cell phone towers are weaponized. They are deployed in all of our communities, along all of our major highways. This is all part of the ultimate goal. They're not only taking our land, not only do they want to control the food supply and the water supply, they want our very minds. And I know that this sounds just unbelievable. It is. It is, and that is why they figure we'll never come to understand what they're doing, because it's too outrageous.
Well, and Deborah, I'm going to have to let you go because we're out of time. But ladies and gentlemen, they want your mind. They also want to kill off a significant part of the population of this country, and they're already doing that. They're poisoning our water. They're poisoning our air. They're poisoning our food. They're poisoning our vaccines. They're giving us poison medicine. Go to Deborah's website again. Once more, the name of your website?
StopTheCrime.net. Call 707-586-9558, 707-586-9558 to order the documents if you are unable to download them from our website. And Dr. Stan, thank you so much for having me on today.
And thank you for everything you're doing, Deborah. God bless. Bye-bye. Well, you can tell, certainly listening to Deborah, that she's very, very concerned about what's going on. And I understand her concern, and what she's saying is absolutely true. Remember, I've been at this for over 50 years now, and I've seen these things unfolding. I've seen them create unnecessary war after unnecessary war and kill literally hundreds of millions of people. And basically, they're going to kill an awful lot more if we go ahead with this. War over there in the Middle East is totally unjustified war. Why is it unjustified? Well, of course, basically you've got the Shia and the Sunni Muslims that basically opposing one another. But who was it who actually installed the mullahs over there in Iran in 1979? Why, we did. Who is it who's backing the Sunni Muslims? Why, we are. We're backing both sides, ladies and gentlemen. After all, you can't have a war unless you got enemies, so we create the enemies, and what most people don't understand is everything is an illusion and delusion, and these are wicked and evil people. And so what you need to do, of course, is get my book, Brotherhood of Darkness. That's Brotherhood of Darkness. You need to get my talk on Agenda 21, the covert plan, population control, the covert agenda, the desperate deception. It's a talk I give, but most of it is certainly, or half of it, is the interview I did back in 1980 with Norman Dodd, who was director of the research for the Reese Committee, the only congressional committee ever allowed to investigate the great tax-exempt foundations. And what did he find out? Well, basically that these people, especially those in the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, wanted to change the world. How would you do it? Why you do it? By wars. There's no better way to change the world than through wars, and that's what this whole phony situation is over in Syria today. Basically, we go to Dale Gavlak, Gavlak. Look it up, write it down, get your computer out, start talking about it on the internet. Dale Gavlak, and talk program Dale Gavlak, is a reporter who went to the area over there, a suburb of Damascus, and what did he do? He talked to the rebels and said, sure, we were the ones responsible for the use of chemical weapons. They were given to us by Saudi Arabia, and we didn't know how to use them. You'll find this article, a number of articles to this effect on the internet, and never mentioned by the controlled media, because the media is rigidly controlled by wicked and evil men. Dale Gavlak, look it up, ladies and gentlemen, and then help us get the word out. And then, of course, we hope that many of you will certainly want to get my DVD. It's called The Desperate Deception. You can get my DVD on the World Revolution. That's my interview with Ambassador Smith, Ambassador Earl T. Smith, a billionaire who was kind enough to let me interview him, and he was the American ambassador to Cuba. When we installed Fidel Castro, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we installed him knowing he was a communist. And David Rockefeller's daughters go down to visit with Fidel, and Fidel comes up to visit with David Rockefeller. You need to verify that. Get David Rockefeller's book from Radio Liberty. That's Memoirs. Our number 1-800-544-8927. Nothing as it appears to be. Everything is illusion and delusion. Our number 1-800-544-8927. Please pray for Radio Liberty. If you can, please help us. We'll be right back.
This is Trevor Coppola for Anthony J. Hilder. I'm with Deborah Tavares, and we're going to discuss a few topics here.
Thank you so much for the interview. I appreciate the opportunity. One of the things that we want to talk about is what we were discussing a little bit ago, and that is the significance of this NASA war document that was found on the NASA website, and the need to urgently get this out in front of as many people as possible because of the content of this document.
So was this document available to everyone, or this was on their actual website and someone found it?
That is correct. It was on the NASA website, and it was a document that actually is a PowerPoint presentation by Dennis Bushnell, the chief NASA scientist at the Langley Center. And it was presented in 2001, July of 2001, just a few months before 9/11. And what brought my attention to it and immediately rang some uncomfortable realizations was when we first came across it. It says on the website, future strategic issues, future warfare circa 2025. And as I decided to just flip through it quickly to see what it was about, I was a little stunned on page 4. It said, the presentation is based in all cases upon existing data, trends, analysis technologies, no pixie dust. And the entire premise of the document, or the PowerPoint, is about robots, cyborgs, and humans. So I immediately saw a conflict between future and now. And I thought, what are they covering up? Because that was a definite cover-up. And then I started to continue looking through the document with shock. And that's why we're talking right now, because I think most people would be shocked to find on page 93.
So who wrote this NASA document, and was this intentional? Did they want the public to see this, do you think, or?
Well, again, the Illuminati, the most wealthy, rich men on the face of the planet, always telegraph everything that they're going to do. So the fact that it was on the NASA website, it was certainly available to the public, but did they see it? Obviously not. Because had they looked at this document, you would know about it right now, and we don't. And that's the purpose of this discussion, is for people to know about this document. Again, the conflict between the future and the fact that they said it was a current reality in 2001 of July when this was actually presented. And what it said, which was quite shocking, on page 93, it said, "Capture, torture Americans in living color on prime time." And that is an unbelievable statement. Then it's followed up by saying, "Terror attacks within the continental United States using binary biologicals take down critical infrastructure." They are going to use an EMP, which is an electromagnetic pulse. They're going to use radiation frequencies against our brains, etc., and conduct serious psy-war and collateral damage and exploitation. On this same page 93, they say exploit CNN syndrome. Now, CNN, of course, is the network, the news media network, propaganda machine, and was set up by the CIA. You can watch the movie called Psy-War on stopthecrime.net for all the background information on CNN. Very, very interesting information. Then you go on and you read that on page 66, they say increasingly critical are human limitations and human downsides. Humans are too large, humans are too heavy, too tender, humans are too slow, both physically and mentally, and we require huge logistical trains, meaning we cost way too much money to maintain, and humans have rapidly decreasing to negative value. Can you even believe this? I mean, you're hearing this, and it's got to be rather shocking coming off of a NASA website, particularly when some of the agencies that are involved are the U.S. Air Force, DARPA, the CIA, the FBI, Southern Command, Atlantic Command, Australian Department of Defense, and other agencies. This is the corporation's agencies. We are USA Inc. We're no longer under a constitution as proclaimed in the Iron Mountain Report, which everyone should read. On stopthecrime.net, you can download it not only as the document, but you can watch the documentary, which I highly recommend. You will see how the stealth and deceptive, incrementally positioned attacks upon the Constitution have rendered us now a corporation. And we no longer have a legitimate government. We are being controlled by corporations and banks that are posing as a legitimate government, and they're not. We wouldn't have a legitimate government with the war machine stating what they were going to do on the continental United States to all the people. And this is not just in the United States. This is a global planned attack and assault with technologies beyond most people's comprehension. Everyone is buying books and ammunition, guns and ammunition, and they don't realize that the beam weapons, for example, on page 45, beam weapons increasingly prevalent. This is how they're going to attack. They talk also about, on page 9, this is very interesting and horrifying. Humans have taken over and vastly shortened evolution. They're going to direct evolution. They believe, the bankers, the global elites, believe that they have accomplished immortality. And they're doing that, again, keeping in mind that this entire document is about robots, cyborgs, and humans. They've already mapped our brains. We've just recently heard that they can transfer a human brain into machinery. So whenever they tell us that this is a new scientific discovery, we know it's been decades and decades prior to us ever finding out about these things. And they also talk about microdust as a weapon. They say that this micron-sized mechanized dust, which is distributed as an aerosol and inhaled into the lungs, the dust mechanically bores into the lung tissue and executes various pathological missions. They say it's a completely new type of warfare, and it is legal. It's legal. This is what they're going to do to all the humans on the face of this planet. It's all legal. And then they talk about how the use of frequencies will be used in warfare. And we know, for example, the smart meters that are being deployed around the globe, the replacement of our electric meters, which will also and does include the replacement of all of our gas meters and our water meters as well, and will be connected to our food supply when they collapse the currency and they issue energy allowances, and that will all be controlled through the metering system. But they talk about the use of low frequencies, microwave frequencies, and they mention in this NASA document the U.S. Army report. The U.S. Army report is on our website, smartmetersmurder.com. It's about a 20-page Army document that talks about the use of frequencies to target the enemy. We're the enemy. And they say 100% of the human population will be affected by these frequencies. Some will be the canaries in the coal mine, which is a term that they've been using as people have been dropping like flies. People are experiencing all kinds of health maladies. Generally, it starts with the ringing of the ears, heart palpitations, skin rashes, inability to sleep through the night. And what they're doing is they're jamming our immune systems with these frequencies.
So how do the elite shield themselves from their own weapons?
Well, that's a really good question. And some of the information that we've come across is, of course, they have methods far ahead of anything that we have available to ourselves, such as cancer cures. They don't get cancer. There's chip mechanisms that we understand can fend off certain frequency attacks. We also know that they're interested in transhumanism. So much of what they're doing globally, they're interested in. And to what extent they're affected by all of the chemtrails and all of the nanofibers that are being dropped, which is phase 1 of the first protocol. It all lines up. Everything lines up. You connect the dots. You see the NASA war document. Not only does it talk about the effects of frequencies and how it will be used, they acknowledge that it will interfere with our performance, that it will cause seizures. They acknowledge this in this document. It is no longer a debate about smart meters. We don't need any more scientists or doctors saying people are getting sick. This is the intention. So we have to stop looking for more verifiable proof that people are becoming sick. This is the goal. This is the absolute goal. It's incarceration, it is enslavement, and it is depopulation, and it is massive mind control. The frequencies have multiple purposes.
What do you think the solution is to all of this? his multi-level attack that's been going on for a very long time?
Well, I think the solution is that people need to become educated as rapidly as possible. And there are documents that are, for example, the Silent Weapons Quiet Wars document. It's a 41-page document. It's on our website. This lays out, it's an operations, research, and technical manual. This document was the 1954 a 1954 Bilderberg policy at the first Bilderberg meeting. And this laid out the strategy to control the human population. And again, I can't stress enough that everyone should read this, because they talk about how they talk about that this document should not be released to the people because it is a declaration of war.
You can't keep fighting fires. You have to go after the arsonists. And that's what you're pointing out, is the people that are responsible. And everything we see out there, what they're spraying and why are they spraying, nobody's talking about the conspiracy itself. This is a war against the people, and this, you've got a hold of those specific people, and that's why that's valuable. They're killing us.
That's exactly right. And this is their war plan. This is the war plan. So we have to go to the war plan. This is only 41 pages. You take out the diagrams and you've got 36 pages. And it's not hard to read. They say that it's the silent weapon technology has evolved from operations research, a strategic and tactical developed under the military management in England during World War II. The original purpose of this research was to study strategic and tactical problems of air and land defense with objective effectiveness used in initiated military resources against foreign enemies. And they go on to talk about how they came across technologies that they had. Oh, in 1952, the grant period terminated, and the high-level meeting of the elite was held to determine the next phase of the social operations research. The Harvard project had been very fruitful, as is borne out by the publication of some of the results in 1953, suggesting the feasibility of economic engineering, studies of structure of the American economy. And they talk about how it was engineered in the last half of the 1940s. The new quiet war machine stood, so to speak, in sparkling gold plated hardware on the showroom floor by 1954. So this document talks about a combination of irresistible attacks upon humanity and how they will control humanity. Politically, they talk about how they set up the political system right and left so that we would feel our grievances were aired and our frustrations could come out. But the bankers were behind everyone who was elected, and they laugh at us. They laugh at us. The very, very last, and I'll go to this right now because we'll come back to the document itself, but the very last statement in this document, it says, Factor 6, cattle. Those who will not use their brains are no better off than those who have no brains. And so this mindless school of jellyfish, father, mother, son, and daughter, become useful beasts of burden, or trainers of the same. So what they say in this document is they will dole out poisonous foods. It's not what we need, but it's what we want, and those that decide to eat these foods will have the consequences of that. They tell us how they set up all the social engineering, how they devise the family, how they crumble the family, how they set up the war machine, how they influence thinking in the family unit to allow the family to give up their children to war for a rich man's fodder. It's a document that discusses the artificial womb. They believe that people need to feel protected. and that the elites are going to serve as the womb for protection of the people, that they'll have a place to take cover and hide from the reality of life because we just are not capable of managing the reality of life. So they will set up that artificial womb. It says, the objective of these artificial wombs is to provide a stable environment for both stable and unstable activity, to provide a shelter for the evolutionary process of growth and maturity. Survival, to provide security for freedom and to provide defensive protection for offensive activity. And they say that from the time a person leaves its mother's womb, in every effort is directed towards building, maintaining, and withdrawing into artificial wombs various sorts of substitute protective devices or shells. So they set themselves up to protect us, to keep us crippled, to numb us down with foods so that our pineal gland is interfered with. We're never able to reach our higher consciousness. And right now, the massive fluoridation across the United States is to collapse the ability for us to think. They're shutting us down right now.
They take your baby and make it Rosemary's Baby.
That's exactly right. Right.
It's very similar to The Matrix, which was based on a DARPA document. I mean, it is similar, isn't it? It's problem, reaction, solution, the same way they always operate. So I guess the best thing to do is wake everyone up and hope that a grassroots movement can change it. Do you think revolution would be necessary at some point, or could it change without that? What do you think?
Well, I think we need a revelation, not a revolution. A revolution would only bring in martial law, in the opinion of what we are looking at, would bring in martial law. It would also allow people to be targeted with the weaponry that they cannot wait to roll out on us. You add the drones, you add the microdust, you add in the beam weapons that they tell us they have. They also have a blast wave accelerator. And when you look at the population of the United States, the majority of the population lives along the coastlines. And the blast wave accelerator was a tidal wave invention that the United States dreamt up with the Soviet Union back in the 40s. Actually, it was going to be used in World War II instead of the bombs, but they decided to use the bombs instead. And the blast wave accelerator exploits the methane deposits on the seabed and causes a fingerprintless, plumeless tidal wave on low-lying areas around the perimeter of any country.
Right now you've got your weaponized Gestapo meter that keeps track of every house and every movement and every bit of energy that you're already doing and can report back to whoever is observing. So we're virtually in a concentration camp right now.
Yes,
in the meantime, the food supplies are being reduced. As you're mentioning in your other interview, how the dams are being taken out and the food. I mean, it's so obvious that the federal government coming in and wanting your child even at earlier and earlier ages, every place, everywhere, and it's based on the foundation of climate change, which you mentioned. You might want to get into that and your Iron Mountain.
That's absolutely true. All the documents, the Iron Mountain document, even the NASA war document, talks about there are too many people using too much stuff, and the Earth cannot support this. And they've come up with the fear-based, scientific, fraudulent information that people are now accepting. They're rewriting history and they're rewriting science with the idea that people are using too much resources. We have to reduce CO2 and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And that is flying through every city across the world right now. It's written into all local government documents, and cities now are, well, California, for example, with the CARB initiative, where we have to actually pay for the air we breathe, and we're taxed for the air. It's like the fiat money. We've accepted false-backed money which they tell us in the iron document or in the silent weapons document, one of the reasons that they send our men and women off to war is to reduce the population because they have stolen from them. They've taken real labor service in exchange for illegitimate false fiat money. So they have to eliminate the creditors. That's another aspect of war, is to reduce the creditors. But it's all based on the false pollution that is not false. They've created the pollution. When you look at the Iron Mountain document, you will see the methods in which they were going to create pollution. They even say that they will deforest us, and they're doing that with the chemtrail, the secret chemtrail or geoengineering program or weather modification. Actually, that program has multiple layers. Not only does it increase weather events, we've just experienced some horrific events here in the United States with massive tornadoes that just destroyed a number of cities in Oklahoma. We're being hit globally. They're hitting our food supply. It does reduce our food supply. It will increase the cost of our food. It's changing the pH in the soil, which will then fit to the prescribed Monsanto mega corporation food takeover of the globe. That is the intention of Monsanto, is global food domination. They have the seeds. The seeds will grow in the polluted soil that they are creating. This is all by design. So what do we do about this, you asked? We first must become educated. And I would say that the quickest way for people to become educated is look at these very simple source documents. Look at the Quiet Weapons Silent War document. Look at the Iron Mountain document and the New World Order Exposed, 1969. They're all on our website, stopthecrime.net. Of all the research we have done, if you just get those basic documents understood, if everyone understands the fraud, then we will be able to eliminate this. We don't have to go on with this fraud. We do not. And people keep saying, well, there's more of us than them. Well, that may be true. But sadly, now, there are technologies that are so unbelievable that people won't even realize what hit them. And that is the strategy of the future wars and the wars that we're facing in our country. But I would say everyone needs to look at the NASA document. You need to move from the illusion, the non-reality that you are living in. You need to move into a new reality formed by the truths that these documents convey. So that then from those realities, then you can look at solutions. You can't shoot from the hip and look for solutions if you have not learned who's doing this to us, how they're doing this to us, and the documents that tell us how they are doing this to us.
Like the Truman Show, which was designed to create a false reality for entertainment, the false reality we have now is designed to kill us. This is a war against the people. This is why that tabloid came out, Prepare to Die. And they're doing it in so many deliberate ways in which those documents show that it's been in the works for a long time. And you not only see the individuals, which can be kind of identified with the Bilderbergers, the Trilats, and Skull and Bones. They are in the saddle. They are the ones determining policy, the scientific advisor to the president of the John P. Holdren in charge of the chemtrails. We have MITRE with the former head of the CIA directing all these branches of government. We've got guys like Leon Panetta, which is the head of the CIA and the Department of Defense, moving our armies over to NATO and moving without a constitution. This is a direct war against us, and we see people dying like flies now. And like you said, it doesn't have fingerprints on it because of the methods that they're using, but it's as real as people getting strokes and cancer and autism and Alzheimer's. It's so clear. I mean, the stats, the mathematics prove the point. And so they have to know, people have to know what's going on to strategize to fight it. And they can, because the only way they're getting away with this is by the lies. And if you succumb to the mass media, the 3 networks, and the 2 wire services, you're never going to get out of it.
Well, it actually says in the document, in the NASA war document, that they will use mass media propaganda. That is prevalent.
CNN syndrome, is that?
Yeah, that's one of the things that they call it, but they're literally going through this document. Oh, they're going to also use explosive dust opportunities. They talk about how, the dust will infiltrate deeply into buried and other such targets. They're saying in here too, if you move, they can see you and you're dead. So the technology, sensors in everything. There is an amazing mission statement that I found on PSI technology out of the Carnegie Mellon Institute. And the mission statement stated that they were changing the global infrastructure to that of computers and technology, and that would include our entire structure, not only utilities, but civil, government policies. And what is also very interesting, we went to Al Gore's recent book review. He wrote a book called The Future, and he talks about how artificial intelligence is going to take over, and that we're going to see changes within the United States that have not been seen in 500 years. And he talks about how it's just not efficient to continue with humans. The same thing. These all tie in. They all tie in. We have a think tank that is plotting and scheming against humanity because they believe that it's too frail. And they also talk about let me pause for a second here. Oh, they talk about the U.S. Brain Project, and it begun in the 90s. They say that it was funded by 16 organizations across 5 agencies. NIH, which of course is the National Health Institute, the Department of Defense, NASA, and the Department of Energy. And they talk about how they have over 10,000 individual presentations at annual meetings for the Society for Neuroscience. And essentially, they have redesigned humanity. And there is a fascinating life story of a 4th generation clone called Michael Prince. And that is on our website under the NASA document link, and I urge everybody to listen to this interview with Michael Prince. He was killed in 2011, and he is a 4th generation clone. The levels of technology, the length of time that they've had technologies are unbelievable. What they also say in the Iron Mountain documentary is that they will control the educational system, that they will replace the education system with computers. They're saying that in the NASA document too. Everything will be telecommuting, teleshopping, tele-entertainment, teletravel, teleeducation. This way they can rewrite history. Everything will be on Kindle, and it'll be very easy to change books, to change the language. Recently, I was listening to a weather report, and the reporter said, it will be sunny tomorrow. But I'm calling sunshine now a soft sunshine, because the sun doesn't shine like it used to. I mean, that is what I'm saying. The reporter didn't say that. But the reporter now is saying a soft sunshine. They're rewriting our definition of what a sunny day is supposed to look like, because we're under the constant vellum of this secret, non-existent atmospheric poisoning of our skies. So they're rewriting our vocabulary. They're rewriting everything about us. And they're keeping us so sick from the fluoride, from the aspartame in the food, all of the dyes and chemicals on everything. I mean, even the receipts that we get from filling our cars with gas are poisonous. We shouldn't be touching them. And so we need to navigate. I say that life on a daily basis is like trying to walk through a landmine field. And if you get to the other side at the end of the day, you've made good choices, because they've certainly put and placed landmines in our lives.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid, really. I mean,
The impact that it's having on our lives, that we should be sitting here right now having this conversation because of what has been orchestrated against us. Our futures are being determined for us. Our lifespans are being decided upon.
it's fascinating information. So the best way to get access to all this is stopthecrime.net.
StopTheCrime.net. It links to our other websites as well, which is smartmetersmurder.com. We have invaluable YouTube videos up on smartmetersmurder.com. There's a series done by Barry, B-A-R-R-I-E, Trower, T-R-O-W-E-R, who is a scientist out of the UK, and talks about the weaponization of frequencies as it relates specifically to the wireless, and in particular, the vast deployment throughout America and other countries as well of the cell phone towers. They're erupting everywhere, and they're disguising them as trees, they're disguising them in church steeples. Even when you drive through the desert, they're disguised into yuccas, and that is a cell phone tower. They're also, this is very interesting, they're putting them in mobile oil signs in gas stations, so you don't even see them. Now, when you look, if you're really aware of spotting cell phone towers, my grandchildren can spot them a mile away. But you can go to shopping centers where they have landscaping and the uplights amongst the landscaping, and you'll see many uplight standards that are disguised cell phone towers. And you don't think of it. You're just thinking that it's lights within the parking lot, and they're actual cell phone towers.
And they're in church steeples as well, aren't they? Yeah.
Yes, they are. And they're paying schools to put them on their campuses. Right now, there's a newly discovered cancer cluster at San Diego State University, and there have been a number of students and faculty that have gotten brain tumors. So we are in a takedown of frequencies admitted by this document. We have the proof, we have the military, the agencies that admit to this. We don't need to prove the deaths on the campuses near towers, because it says towers will be used on page 98. It says that towers will be used to emit frequencies. So again, this is their document. This is what they tell us on page 98. A typical scenario: takedown of the U.S. by 10 people and $10 million. Binary biologicals, imported vitamins and clothing, the food supply will be poisoned, terror attacks with vaccines and with viruses. They talk about our railroads will be attacked, selective anti-personnel with radiation frequencies, microwaves from the towers. The water supply will be contaminated via intercontinental unmanned vehicles, accompanied by serious psy-war, and that's the CNN syndrome. So they're telling us here how easy it would be to take down the United States with these new technologies. We've got to expose this.
Thanks so much for all this information, Deborah Tavares, and we will check out your website and try to make this go viral and get it out there. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.